Welcome back. As you know, I'm Eli, the computer guy, here for the Daily Blob, where I shake my brain nipples every day to get some of that dirty YouTube money so I can pay to actually teach you folks real technology. I do Silicon Dojo, silicondojo.com, hands-on, in-person technology education classes in Durham, North Carolina. We had one last week. We're going to have one next week. Basically, we're focusing on a lot of AI topics, that type of deal. If you're interested, go to silicondojo.com, become a member, and RSVP when new classes become available. So, my brain nips are getting hard. You want to come up? You want to come up? They want to see you. They want to see you. Oh, look at that. This is why you're all really here. You're not here for technology. You're not here for layoffs. You're not here for my brain nips. You're here for the Roxy. Anyways, this gets my brain nips all perky because you know how I love to talk about layoffs. Eli, how do I get a job? I don't care. I don't care. Getting jobs have to do with macro forces. Getting jobs have to do with how much energy and effort you put into it. Getting jobs have to do with where you are in the world and what your resources are and all those types of things. I can explain stacks to you. Getting a job, right? It's... Who knows? Who knows? Anyway, so I think this is interesting. This is not quite in the technology world, but it is a massive number of white-collar employees that are going to be let go. And basically, this is boosting their stock price quite significantly. And this is one of the things to be concerned about, right? So with a lot of companies anymore, right? The real money in the company is not the profit. It is not the revenue. It is the stock valuation, right? So it's not about being able to sell a product and be able to make more profit off of it necessarily. It's how you can boost that stock. And so one of the issues that we're currently going through is the investors really want to see increased efficiency. And what is increased efficiency? It means firing a crap ton of people, right? You can't increase efficiency by firing 10 people or 100 people. If you're going to fire people, by God, it better be by the tens of thousands for anybody to be interested. And so this is coming from CNBC. Nestle announces plans to slash 16,000 jobs. Stock jumps 9%. Again, I want you to be thinking about this in the world, in the macroeconomic world that we're dealing with, right? We have the insane tariffs going on with the Trump administration. Trump is trying to push 100% tariff against China, a stacking tariff. So the actual tariff will be like 145% against China. We have all kinds of insanity going on. Again, the government is laying off hundreds of thousands of people. I mean, by God, if there's something that Trump knows how to do, it's how to screw people over. Hundreds of thousands of government employees have been let go. We have the government shutdown. We just have so much stuff occurring. And that's what I want you to be thinking about, again, on this macro level of the economy. As I've talked about before, how the dominoes fall. I want you to understand, when Bear Stearns fell in 2008, almost nobody I knew gave two shits. Right now, in 2025, you say, when Bear Stearns fell. And we're like, yeah. And let me tell you, in 2008, it was like, oh, well, that happened. Then I went to work for almost another year. I kept going to work because it didn't really fucking matter to me, right? But that was the thing. One thing falls, another thing falls, another thing falls, another thing falls. And that's where I'm trying to talk to you folks about the economy, right? So if you look, right, with the Trump administration coming in back in the beginning of the year, lots of offers got killed, right? So basically, interns were not given job offers. They expected to get job offers. They were not given job offers. People that had job offers actually had their job offers rescinded, right? So that's the thing. It's not, the companies at the time weren't necessarily doing layoff, but they were rescinding things. The hiring that they were going to do didn't actually happen. And then we had massive layoffs. Again, all these companies doing these massive layoffs. Then we have return to office policies, right? These aren't layoffs, but they make it clear they really hope a lot of people quit, right? That kind of thing going on. And then as I've talked about recently, what's interesting right now is supposedly, we still have quote unquote low unemployment rate, right? 4.7% unemployment rate. Theoretically, Anyways, let's just put that on the table. Let's just accept it, right? But if you looked at it, the hiring market has frozen up. People that are in jobs are now scared that if they leave the job, they'll not be able to find a new one. So they're staying where they're at, which means people that need to get hired, there's no longer that cycle for the hiring process, right? I just went to the All Things Open conference. In Raleigh, North Carolina. So Raleigh, again, part of Research Triangle. They have a real tech scene there, tech industry there. And I talked with a lot of people that have now been out of a job for like a year. I was talking with one person who was interesting. There are other jobs. The guy does not like where he works. He wants to leave where he works. There are other jobs he can get. He can get another job for 50% of the current pay that he's making, right? And this is where I want you to see these it takes a while for everything. And that's why it gets to be very confusing, because you don't understand what's going on. But Eli, right? I hear there's still jobs available. Well, for half of what they were paying. But Eli, the unemployment rate is still at all-time lows. Well, yeah, but the entire system has frozen up. But Eli, right, that's one of the curious things when you look at the whole macroeconomics that happens, is where numbers and things don't necessarily mean what you think they do. And again, as I've been talking about, how things are going to get a lot worse. We are in the beginning of the disaster, right? This is a catastrophic disaster. People are like, you have Trump derangement syndrome. And like, you don't. You don't. Here's the thing, boys and girls. If it is October of 2025 and you do not have TDS, I think that means you haven't been paying attention to what the fuck's going on. Again, like I say, with the soybean farmers, what do farmers have to do with me? When you're talking about tens of billions of dollars of products that are not going to get sold and are most likely going to rot. When you look at so much of this stuff, right? We are all part of one economy. So anyways, Nestle said Thursday it will cut 16,000 jobs as the firm's new CEO, Philip Navratil, looks to accelerate a turnaround in the consumer goods giant in a bid to improve operational efficiency. And isn't this what we've been hearing from everybody, right? Mark Zuckerberg, the year of efficiency. Which begs the question, what the fuck he was doing last year? But you're not allowed to ask that question. Like, when Mark Zuckerberg comes out and says this is the year of efficiency, nobody is supposed to ask, what the fuck was last year then? But anyways, right? The firm said it will cut 12,000 white-collar jobs and a further 4,000 roles will be reduced over the next 2 years. Again, something to be thinking about when you think about jobs that are being cut. How is this going to affect you as a technology professional, right? If you're dealing with construction workers, it will affect the tech industry, but maybe not a lot, right? A lot of construction workers, they have a weird thing when it comes to technology. They don't really like it, and they're mean about it. They're not passive aggressive, they are aggressive with anti-technology. So the good thing is, you fire a lot of them, doesn't necessarily affect you, right? Farmers, look, you can fire a shit ton of farmers, right? And the fact you might not be able to get food, but it might not necessarily affect you a lot, right? But think about this. When they're talking about cutting white-collar jobs, what do IT professionals do? We install, maintain, manage communication systems, right? Farmers don't need sophisticated Slack systems or AI-powered Zoom to go out and pick fucking plums, you know what I'm saying? But white-collar employees, they do, right? They're the ones on Zoom calls. They're the ones doing emails. They're the ones doing Slack. They're the ones with the newest smart devices. They're the ones trying to figure out AI efficiency and all that kind of stuff. And you get rid of 12,000 of those. Think about how much is required to support those 12,000 employees, and think about basically what the follow-on effects are. Quote, we are transforming how we work, Navratil wrote in a LinkedIn post summarizing the company's earnings report. Quote, we are evolving and will simplify our organization and automate our processes. I do think this is an interesting thing coming out of the COVID world. One of the weird things I got really nervous about with all these work from home advocates is basically the idea that, well, if I can do my job from home, then I shouldn't have to come into the office. One of the points that I try to make to a lot of people that they ignored me on is that many of these businesses don't know what their KPIs are. KPIs are called key performance indicators. They don't really understand why they're paying their employees. Like, the nice thing about being in tech support is you have a ticket tracking system of one form or the other, good or bad. You generally have a ticket tracking system. The nice part with things like ticket tracking systems is that your boss has an idea of how much work you're doing every day, how much work you're doing every day, how much work the team is doing, and that type of thing. And so you have these numbers. You have the numbers where your director for IT can go to the executives and say, this is why we need more resources. Or they can look and they can say, okay, 5 of my team are completing 10 tickets per day. One person on my team is doing 5 tickets per day. Figure out what the hell is going out there, right? You have numbers. You have key performance indicators. One of the big issues with so many people, again, HR, marketing, PR, fuck PR. Oh my God. PR, God knows what those people get ranked on. Anyways, the reality is they have no idea what their KPIs are, or they didn't have any idea what their KPIs are, and they were basically okay with it. They were like, you know what? We have a company of X size. Other companies of X size hire Y number of PR people. And that's basically what it goes down to. How big should our marketing department be? I don't know, how big is their marketing department? Okay, hire that many people, right? Because if you don't really understand the KPI, if you don't really understand the value that is being brought per employee, that's the kind of the decision that you make. I think one of the interesting things as we go into this post-COVID world, right after the whole push for work from home and all that kind of stuff, I think there's going to be more and more focus on these KPIs. And I think what a lot of these work from home revolutionaries don't quite grasp is, yeah, they're not actually bringing a lot to the bottom line. Hey, guess what? You are as valuable at home as you were when you were in the office. The problem is, that's not very valuable. That's not very valuable. So I think that's one of the things we're going to be seeing over the next couple of years is, again, these pushes for efficiency, and then thinking about, what the trickle-down effect is, especially like in the technology world. I told for anybody that's been watching me, I've been doing videos since 2009. I've been doing Daily Blob, the original Daily Blob. I've been doing that since 2012. Anyways, I used to talk to my viewers about this with old school IT. So when we talk about old school IT, that's A+, that's CCNA, that's that kind of stuff, right? And I was talking about this, and I think it was 2012. I went to I was seeing a keynote presentation at Interop, New York. And the interesting thing with that keynote presentation is this guy was talking about automation systems. So at that point, they were deploying automation systems. So this was before even Puppet and Chef. So we now use Ansible, but there was something before called Puppet and Chef. And that kind of stuff wasn't even used that much, right? This was when all of that stuff was starting to get deployed. Orchestration, when orchestration was a new concept in the IT world. This was about that time period when people tried to figure out what the fuck orchestration even meant. Anyways, and what he said was for his company, they were able to double the head count in their company, and at the exact same time, reduce their IT staff by 25%. Imagine that, doubling the headcount at the exact same time you reduce the support staff. And the thing was, again, at that point, that was like revolutionary. That was like, what? No! This is 2012. You can't do that, right? But they could. They could. And now we're in a world where help desk, 2 people doing quote unquote help desk, basically, manage everything for a 1,000 system company or whatever else, because systems have become so automated. And so I think that's one of the interesting things to be thinking about now is basically, are we going through the orchestration revolution for many of, the white collar services? The idea about how do you push it more efficiently, and then how do you create those orchestration automation systems for a lot of those things, and then what is that going to do to the jobs and the workforce? Now again, a lot of people here, they hear me talking about layoffs and they think it's just about crying, right? But no, but it's look for your opportunity. Where's your opportunity here, right? If your company is going to vibe coding, right, why don't you become the expert on building vibe coding infrastructure, right? There's these things called manifest, YAML, manifests. And when you do vibe coding, you feed it a manifest of the system it's allowed, the systems it's allowed to talk to. What are the API calls? What are maybe the how do you get the environment variables? How do you get the passwords or the secrets or whatever else? What tables and those types of things they're able to interact with. You feed that to your vibe code, to Claude or whatever else. And so then when it's creating the code, it automatically adds all of the proper configurations so that code can now work with your infrastructure. And so thinking about that, right? Think about how do you build your infrastructure for a vibe coding world. You take point on that now, and then, when all your other buddies are fired, you'll be the only one that understands how this vibe coding infrastructure works. So hopefully you keep your job. Again, when we start thinking about this type of thing, when we think about orchestration and KPIs really hitting the white collar world, the whole question is what systems can you spin up and manage and deploy that support the orchestration of white collar services within the company? And think about that, right? Doing your own research, doing education, asking your boss if you can do, brown bag lunches. Basically, people bring in their lunch, or you cater the lunch, get the company to cater the lunch, and then you do a presentation on, these are the new systems to increase efficiency. So basically, when the next layoffs come, you can't lay off the person that's spearheading the efficiency gains for your corporation. Hopefully. Things to be thinking about. Let's see here. It's unclear how Nestle plans to incorporate more automation into its corporate offices, but company spokesperson Chiara blah blah told CNBC that the initiative is much broader than replacing roles with artificial intelligence. And that's one of the things I've been hammering home for a couple of years now at this point. Efficiency and automation and orchestration and all these things can have AI components. It doesn't mean AI is the end-all, be-all for a lot of these things. Shares of Nestle closed 9.3% higher on Thursday. The stock price jump boosted Europe's food and beverage sector, which was up more than 4.2% at the end of the session. Under its former CEO, Nestle had already announced a cost savings program worth 2.5 billion Swiss francs, $3.14 billion. This has now been accelerated to 3 billion francs by the end of 2027. So basically, they're going out there, they're firing 16,000 people, they're finding ways to reduce their spending or whatever, and that has boosted their stock by 9%. That is right. 16,000 people being chucked out on their ass is a highly profitable move for the CEO of Nestle. And the issue that you run into, again, with macro forces is what happens when everybody does the same thing. There's this idea that CEOs, especially in the tech world, that they're visionaries and rebels and revolutionaries. That's horse crap. They're fucking lemmings. They are lemmings that do what everybody else does, right? When everybody was hiring during COVID, everybody else was hiring during COVID. When everybody was doing work from home during COVID, everybody else was doing work from home during COVID, right? All of a sudden, Elon Musk fires 75% of his staff and tells everybody they have to get back to the office. And all of a sudden, holy crap, things change overnight. The interesting thing, again, with a lot of these companies, now that they're seeing that their stock price gets a boost by doing major job cuts, how many of them will do major job cuts in order to get that stock price boost? And where does that put all of us at the end of the day? In a bad place. Have you heard my story about getting laid off as a pizza delivery driver? Yeah. Motherfuckers, that's called foreshadowing. We are in the part of this particular story where Eli is foreshadowing your future. So it is stuff to be thinking about. So what do you think about this? What do you think about Nestle laying off 16,000 people? Again, think about this, 12,000 white-collar roles. Think about this, 12,000 white-collar roles on top of, I just talked about Amazon getting rid of 15% of their HR. 1,500 HR employees. Amazon is dumping, on top of all the other stuff that's currently going on. What do you think about all of this? Where do you see yourself positioned, for the next 5 years. In this world of increased efficiency, in this world of increased automation with possible artificial intelligence, when you think of the past of the old school tech world using orchestration tools in order to be able to provide a much higher return on investment, how do you see that playing out basically in the white collar world for a lot of these companies? Do you think basically work from home screwed a lot of employees because it's basically forcing a lot of companies to actually figure out what the hell KPIs are, and they're realizing their KPIs are pretty ugly, right? I heard that. I talk about. I went to a meetup in Miami a number of months ago, and I was sitting there, eavesdropping on some people talking. And they were talking about that with why managers wanted to bring more employees back in the office. And it was funny because they were like, basically the managers have no idea what their KPIs are, right? When you have all these people work from home, if you don't know what their KPIs are, how do you know whether they're doing a good job or not? Right? If you have them in the office and you can walk behind them and you can quote unquote supervise them, then it does make you feel like they're actually doing their work. Right? And everybody laughs. Ha 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 ha. Look at those stupid fucking piece of garbage managers. They don't even know what the KPIs are. Yeah, Bucko. What happens when they figure out what they are? What happens when they figure out they are being dumb and they figure out their KPIs? Do you think the first thing that they're going to realize is they probably need half the staff to be able to do what they're doing? Anyways, put your thoughts down below. Give you another little show of Roxy there. If you like these videos, give us a thumbs up. If you like Roxy, give us a thumbs up. If you hate Roxy, give us a thumbs down. Down in the comment section, if you think I'm amazing, whether you think I'm a moron, say it down there in the comment section like a real Lutnick would. Do remember the thing that I actually care about is Silicon Dojo, silicondojo.com. Free to end user, hands-on technology education that empowers you to do whatever the fuck it is that you want to do. We just did a class in Durham, North Carolina. We're about to do another class in Durham, North Carolina. If you're interested, go to silicondojo.com. And with that, see y'all later.